Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. I'm Steve Wraith and it's ladies' night as it is every Monday. Good evening, Kendall, Sav, Samantha, and welcome back, Katie.
Hi.
Hi.
And we've got a special guest, not the dogs this week, who are busy having a WWE fight on Sav's bed. We've got Big Al. Well, Little Al.
Yeah, little Al, a little bit porky as well. But...
Was that part of your birthday present then?
Yeah, best birthday present ever.
Brilliant. That's superb, that. Like a little miniature Alan Shearer. That just shows you people know you well, Katie. Well, we've got news. A transfer has finally been done. A deal has been done, and finally we'll have him over the line. Hendricks is now a Newcastle United player, unveiled today at Newcastle United's training camp. A deal which seems to have taken forever and a day, but a good one. He signed on a 4-year contract, and best years of his best playing years ahead. And of course, a couple of follows on from the good news that we all had as well. Matty Longstaff, of course, has agreed to stay at the club after being wooed a little bit by Udinese. I think possibly the threat of having to go for play for Watford, didn't look as appetizing in a different division. So he's decided to hedge his bet, stay at Newcastle for a couple of years. But again, it's positive news, and it makes a change from talking about the takeover, Kendall. That's 3 players now secured. Mark Gillespie, of course, coming in. Hendricks is a new signing, and Matty Longstaff agreeing a new contract. Good news week, I suppose, so far.
Yeah, really good news, because obviously I don't think, in all fairness, I don't think anyone expected Matty to actually sign a contract. He took like NUFC out of all of his bios and stuff, so I was like, oh my god, he's completely gone. But then obviously he's signed, so I mean it's only a 2-year contract, which is fair enough, which leads him up to the length of Sean's contract, I believe. But it looks like we'll maybe be in the same position in 12-18 months, but just got to look forward to this season now, I suppose.
Yeah, Sav, it's it's just good to see players coming in and nobody going out yet, but there's a long way to go. Obviously, the transfer window doesn't shut till October.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I didn't think I was going to announce Hendrick. That was like the longest wait ever. I don't know how many days he's in that medical for, but no, it's been a good news week. Well, good as it can be for a Newcastle supporter anyway.
Yeah, Samantha, it's an Irish international, a good player. He's done well at Burnley, over the last few years as well. Are you happy with that signing?
Yeah, I mean, we laugh about the signing now because we thought, 8, 12, 16 weeks ago, it would be a different market that we were shopping in. But I'm really pleased because, when you kind of look at the profile of what we have in midfield at the minute, there is a gap, and he is a fit boy. I mean, he will run a lot. He recycles play. He's not a world beater, but, he's probably the closest thing that we'll have to Hayden. And when Hayden isn't there, we struggle. Shelby doesn't do the work. Sean, I'm not sure I'm convinced of what his best position is yet, but I think he's better when he's a little bit closer to the number 10. And Matty Longstaff, he's got so much to do in terms of development. So there's a gap. He's, played over 100 Premier League games. He's an international. And I think it's a good piece of business. And we're in the position now where Steve Bruce likes him. He's a Steve Bruce player. Therefore, that's what we kind of need to go for. So, it's good legs in midfield.
Hopefully the takeover will, still go through, and this could be like one of the last few Steve Bruce signings we see, but you never know. Rafa Benitez's God isn't happy. He says Hendricks, non-ambitious, stagnation, technically limited, low ceiling, non-progressive signing. Well, definitely not happy with it at all. Stephen Burns says, what's the chances of Hendrick taking over the old Lovercrans chant, signed on a free from Burnley, which is it's a good shout. Katie, are you happy with Hendrick? Do you think, under the circumstances, it's a good signing?
Yeah. I don't know why, obviously, it took so long, unless they were trying to match the takeover. I think he will be a good addition. Is he essentially who I would pick out of everybody? No. But I think he'll mix well with everybody. I just pray to God that he doesn't get the Newcastle curse and comes in and gets injured straight away. So as long as he can stay fit, I think he'll make a bit of pace for us, which is what we need there.
The question is he better looking than Shaw? Because Shaw was the favourite.
Have space.
No.
I was like,
I don't know now.
like,
I've got to be honest. He's got a bit of a towie look, I think.
Yeah,
do you know
won't ever
what?
beat
I've never really
Shaw.
thought that, but I've looked at him then and I'm like, ooh.
maybe he'll grow on you girls. I don't know, but he's look, he's got the tattoos down the arm. He's a bit of a boy by the looks of it. I
He's
can
got
see
the
him.
Irish accent as well. That's
Yeah, I'm
always a
sold on the
bonus.
tattoos. I'm completely sold on the tattoos. You
I
kind
can
of
see
ruined it
him.
by saying he looks like he's from Towie, though.
You see that's Keith Roll says, evening ladies and gents. Steve, I seen you in Vera as the chef. Yeah, repeat fees are on their way to us, which is great. And my wife says it's the best acting I've ever done because I'm never in a kitchen. What is your favorite meal? He's asking the girls tonight. So yeah, Kendall, what's your favorite meal?
Bit of a different direction there, I'm enjoying it. To be honest, I don't know. That's a hard question. I feel like it would either be my granddad's roast dinner with, mint salad on it. Like, it has to have that on, like, his homemade, or steak, chips, and peppercorn sauce, as long as the chips are, like, homemade.
All right, okay, right. That's not bad. Like, I've got to be honest. Steak and chips is a good one for me. Sav, what's your favorite meal?
I love a Chinese. Like, literally, when I call a Chinese restaurant, they already know me. I only moved in here a few weeks ago. I'm straight on it. Once a week, religious. Got to have it.
Good stuff. Samantha, your favourite meal?
Pizza, always pizza. Love pizza. So yeah, pizza, garlic bread, chips. Can't beat it.
Now, are you proper Italian pizza, or are you like Domino's, or?
I don't like Domino's. I try to have a little bit of authenticity around it, but it really depends how many drinks I've had at the time.
Yeah. Katie?
Steak all day, every day. It's my last meal on death row. Everything just steak.
It's meal on death row, classic. Andrew says Hendrick's a decent signing, I reckon. Bags of Premier League experience and is good technically. Now, we do often have a topic which we bring up each week, and we're going for best and worst managers this week. Kendall, give us your best manager first of all. We'll go around the girls and best manager.
Well, obviously, I think everyone's two best are probably going to be Kevin Keegan and Sir Bobby, I would say. But I made a list and I actually ranked them with win percentage. And very surprisingly, Chris Hughton is actually second. Out of the past 20, 30-ish years, Chris Hughton's actually had the second best win rate. He had a 59% win rate out of like a lot of managers that you would have thought would have actually done better. But I think the club did him very dirty. Like, we sacked him when he was in 11th place. Like, why would you do that? I literally don't even know why you would do that. But yeah, I think Kevin Keegan, but I didn't see a lot of Kevin Keegan as a manager the first time around because I was only born in 1995. So I didn't see him as like a manager because I was only really young then. I saw a bit more Sir Bobby because that's when I started like going to the games a bit more, like early 2000s. And then my favourite, obviously, recent times is just probably Rafa, but I think that's probably everyone. Even though he wasn't the best and like he didn't like make us like world beaters or anything, like I just loved him and I just think he's just world-class manager anyways.
Good stuff. I love the fact you do your research as well. Sav, give over to you for your best manager.
Yeah, so I agree with Kevin Keegan and Bobby Robson. I think that they brought a different sort of vibe to the team, where sort of like they had like rapport with the squad and the fans, and it was a really kind of special time when they were about. And I think Rafa as well, he had that same sort of edge to him. But those two particularly, I think that was when times were really good, unlike now.
Yeah, good stuff. Samantha, what's your best manager?
Yeah, I'm with Kendall in saying Chris Hughton. I mean, I adore Bobby Robson. I've got his words behind me. Kevin Keegan as well. I've got his autobiography. I was lucky enough to get over to a game when Keegan was in charge. But, Chris Hughton for me took the club over when we could have fallen apart. I mean, that first relegation season was an absolute mess. We were put up for sale. we actually started that season with no permanent manager. They didn't make a decision on whether he was going to be manager until I think it was October, near the end of October. Everything about that season was a crisis. There was the 6-1 defeat in the friendly at Leyton Orient. So many players that didn't want to be there, and nobody's steering the ship. And Chris Hughton just quietly got on with the job in the background, you know, got a couple of signings in, you know, no world beaters. We didn't have a permanent signing in that first window. You know, we got Simpson in on loan, you know, Lovenkratz decided to come back, but we got a lot of absolute crap out. You know, Viduka went, Owen went, Martins went, Damien Duff went, and I've already talked about him before. He really steadied the ship. He brought us up. You know, this top was, during that season, it was the game I went over to, and it was the first game where we played and we won after we'd found out we were promoted. And the buzz around the club at that point was unbelievable. And as Kendall said, he was treated horrendously when he got sacked. And the reason for being sacked was they wanted more managerial experience. And they brought in Alan Pardew, who had managed Southampton in League One. Now, granted, he got us 5th, but it just absolutely stank what happened. But he, you know, aside from, you know, Keegan Robson and Rafa, he saved the club at that point, I believe, from really falling apart. They could have done a Sunderland at that point because internally they were an absolute mess. And that was the first time that Mike Gashley kind of said, don't want anything to do with it. And he just seems like the nicest man. And I really hope he gets another break with a big club, because I do think he's a fantastic manager.
Good stuff. Katie, your favourite and your top managers at Newcastle?
Oh, I feel like a sheep. Could you imagine if I said Bruce?
I
know who you'd upset. Rafa Benitez wouldn't be happy with that.
No, obviously in relation to what they did for the club, it's got to be Keegan. He just literally turned the place completely around. Emotionally, my favourite one is Sir Bobby, just because of how good he was at the game itself, and all of the clubs he's managed, everything, the way he turned the team around. Yeah, he didn't win anything, but he made a massive difference, and he made an everlasting difference. So I'd probably go for Sir Bobby.
Mine's going to be Keegan as number one. Best football I've ever seen at Newcastle. Attacking football, and I think what made it even better was we didn't expect it. He come off the golf course. He kept us up from, he stopped us from going down into the 3rd division for the first time in our history. He then gets us promoted with a record number of points. He discovers Andy Cole, who then goes and beats the all-time goal scoring record of 41 goals held by Hughie Gallagher. And he then gives us, if that wasn't enough, he gives us Shearer and Ferdinand, and we nearly win the league, not once but twice. We'll go back into Europe. Rob Lee scores a hat-trick in our first game back in Europe in Antwerp. So many memories. And then he gives us all the foreign players that we all still talk about to this day. Ginola, Tino Asprilla, and Philip Albert. We stuffed Man United 5-0 under Keegan live on television. I mean, there's so many things. We didn't win anything, but by God, we give it our best shot, and we did everything we possibly could, and it's why those players are still relevant to this day. Second has to be Bobby Robson for me, Sir Bobby, because had he followed Keegan into the manager's chair, there's no doubt in my mind Newcastle would have gone on, progressed, and probably won a trophy. Would they have won the Premier League? I don't know. Man United were always just too good. They had the habit of winning at that point in time as well. But would Newcastle have won a cup? I think so. Under Bobby Robson, had he come in then, he didn't. He had to come in after the disastrous spells that had gone after Kevin. Dalglish gets a lot of criticism. Had he had Shearer in his seasons that he was there fully fit, I still think Dalglish would have got us something. But he didn't. He got robbed of Shearer early on, and I think that always affected him. His signings of Rush and Barnes didn't do him any favours, but he had a good eye. He brought Thomason in, didn't hit the ground at Newcastle, but obviously went on to win the Champions League. Hullett came in, sexy football was anything but. So by the time we ended up with Sir Bobby, it was too little too late. He had so much damage to repair but by God, he did a great job. And that opening home game where Alan Shearer scored 5 and Newcastle beat Sheffield Wednesday by 8 was a game that I'll never forget. And then just having Bobby Robson in your dugout and just, it gave you the same kind of feeling that it did with Rafa. You know what I mean? You had faith in him. You believed in him. And even though maybe the team wasn't as good as other teams in the division, you always went in knowing you had a chance of at least getting something out of it. So for me, he definitely comes in at number 2. My third choice, I'm not even letting it, I'm not letting, judgment cloud it because I got to know him, but it's Rafa because of who he was. And I saw a point that made there by Nathan, who comes on the show on a Saturday, saying that it was unfinished business. We'll never quite know. But, for me, Rafa, the project that he started, he did the best in a short space of time under a nightmare of an owner. And he comes in at third purely because of his status and, the fact that he kept us up. He got us promoted, in a tough championship. So they're my 3. Great shout on Chris Hughton, Kendall. Fully agree with you. Lovely guy. I got to know him well when he was at the club. And, I still keep in touch with Chris to this day. I'll often drop him a text, whenever when he's had ups and downs in football. And I've got a lot of respect for Chris Hughton. Lovely guy. And again, treated harshly by Newcastle United, I felt. He should have been given the opportunity to stay on and continue the job that he was doing, but it wasn't to be. So, let's move on to the worst managers. Kendall, let's come to you first. Worst managers in your time as a Newcastle fan.
Joe Kinnear, obviously. Joe Kinnear, like when obviously wanted to sign a player that we already had. Like literally, I don't even know what was going on there. Shane Ferguson, I just baffling to me. And then when he came back again, I was like, what are you doing? Like, literally, what is this club doing? Like, do we just want to laugh at ourselves? I do not understand. John Carver, who, according to himself, was the best manager in the world at the time, delusional. I think, there's probably 5,000 other people who would do a better job than him. To be fair to him, like, he was a funny bloke. He was canny, but as a manager, clearly not the most amazing manager in the whole wide world. Alan Shearer, I can't really say he's bad manager. He came when we literally were at a point of no return. Like, he literally basically came to, like, take us down, and it wasn't even his fault. Like, I actually feel so bad for him because it's, like, put him off forever, but he obviously came.
Can't say bad things about him.
Can't say bad things about him there. Sorry, Alan, sorry. Obviously, Alan Pardew, but, like, he never had the worst, like, he never had the worst, like, loss record or anything like that, but at the end the fans absolutely hated him. Everyone hated him. It was Pardew out for months and months and months till he eventually left, and I think only about 2 or 3 weeks ago his 8-year contract finally ended. It's like 3 weeks ago or something. It's actually crazy. I still can't believe he got that long, but
it's interesting, Kendall, because Pardew under Ashley, and we know how bad an owner he is, actually got us to Europe.
Got us fifth, and he signed like loads of French players that we still had a couple of years later, and they didn't turn out to be like the worst players in the world. So, like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Pardew's a bit of a funny one because towards the end, everyone just really like could not stand the sight of him anywhere, and then he started like slating us, saying that it was our fault that he was losing games and that he was in the position that he was in. He was blaming the fans, and he didn't do himself any favors, to be honest. But he's still got like high profile jobs since then. Obviously still gets sacked at every single one, basically, like he did just at Den Haag as well. But he's just, I don't think as a character he's likable, which is an issue for him in like managerial roles, because like no one likes him. Like he's just either like they think he's a joke, or like he's like arrogant and like he thinks he's better than he is, and I just think that's a problem. But yeah, I think the list could go on for like a full hour for bad managers. Like that's how bad it is.
Kendall, somebody was asking if you're going to be putting some more stuff on your YouTube channel. Do you want to give your YouTube channel a shout as well?
Yeah, it's just Kendall Rowan, ROWAN. I just do it when I can, really, now and again when I get the chance. But it's mostly Newcastle content on there and some La Liga. So yeah. Thanks
Good
for that.
stuff. Okay, yeah, no problem. Sav, worst Newcastle United managers in your time supporting the club?
You know what? Mine's a really personal one because I've got Chelsea supporters in my family. And when Wood Hullet was going to come to Newcastle, I was like, this is going to be brilliant. You know, I was young, a bit naive. I was still at school. My sister's a hairdresser. She braided all my hair so I could look like him. You know, I was really into it. And then he turned up and I felt like an absolute mug. Like, you know, it was just not, he annoyed Shearer, who was my favourite player at the time. That upset me, you know, and completely mugged off with that one. I just, you know, and ever since, he, for me, is the worst one.
Yeah, fair enough. Samantha?
Flip. There have been so many. I mean, Kendall covered quite a few. Joe Kinnear, I just refuse to acknowledge that happened. Every so often I do a Google search to see if is he still alive? I mean, what's he doing? There's no trace or history of him now. I don't know where he is.
He is still alive, Joe. Joe is still alive and well and still likes a pint.
There we go. Well, that's probably the best thing for him because it's definitely not management or director of football or whatever made up titles we gave him. Alan Pardew, you know, I absolutely despised him towards the end, but more I just don't like his character. And yeah, he got a lot out of Ashley, but he also got, you know, really played by Ashley. He didn't get the 4th position. He got 5th. We get in the Europa and he got nothing for it. He didn't get players. We almost got relegated again. So, but my choice is actually Graham Souness, who I can't stand as a pundit. You know, he professes that the Newcastle management job kind of ruined him. And it's like, well, you kind of ruined an entire squad. You know, we had 2 players fighting on the pitch while he was our manager. You know, we did have difficult players, but I mean, he's a Scotsman. He was brought in to take a little bit of control and, you know, get us a bit of a grounding again at that point. And he didn't do it. And he decided, you know, that we were going to get rid of Lauren Robert, Jermaine Jenas. He had big issues with Bellamy. He got rid of Aaron Hughes, who obviously I love, you know, being Northern Irish. And he brought in Michael Owen. He brought in Boom Song. He brought in Albert Luque. We talked about this last week. They were some of the worst signings that we ever made as a club. So, I mean, he had money, he had opportunities, and he was brought in as this manager that would take control of the squad, and he ripped it apart. And he never managed again, and I think that's for the best, because whatever success he had previously, I don't know if he underestimated the Newcastle job, but it took a long time for us to try and recover from what he did to the squad. And the way that he even talks about it now, I just have absolutely no time for him whatsoever.
Didn't he bring all of his like backroom staff in as well and basically told, "Oh well, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
I want to work with my mates."
Yeah, that's right. He did. Yeah, absolutely crazy. Katie, yours, please.
Well, Rude Hullet or Sav, it depends. I was so excited. I was there. I think like everyone expecting sexy football. But when you get someone who comes and takes the Newcastle job and doesn't think about Sunderland and Newcastle is a big match or match to be bothered about, you are not for the right person for the job whatsoever. He literally, I think the only thing he cared about was his ego, and he hated the fact that when people thought of Newcastle, they thought of Shearer above him. He left it, didn't he? He left Shearer and Ferguson out of the Sunderland derby, and then when he brought Shearer on, blamed Shearer for the fact that he got beat. But no, I hated him. I was so excited about it, and then he just completely ruined it. I think if I read somewhere, if it was him, he used to get the kitman as well to polish his shoes. Like, what? Why would you do that? I just thought he was just toxic. He's still now mouthing off about Newcastle, saying that the issues aren't Ashley and it's underlying issues, and that we'll always have a problem. You just go away. Just leave. But no, if you can't see that Sunderland and Newcastle is a match, then you just get out of football. Basically.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, some good shouts there. For me, I've got to agree with the ladies. Joe Kinnear has to be up there. Although completely likable guy, met him a couple of times. I actually put an evening with ex-Newcastle managers on at one point. Joe came along and stole the show. But I think for the way that he conducted himself as Newcastle manager, i.e. going in front of the press and going on a 70 swear word expletive rant, if you want to call it that, at a press conference. It's not what you want to be doing as Newcastle manager. I think he's in his 18 league games at Newcastle. I think he managed to win 4, which is not the greatest of rates. Second place, I'm going to have to go with Steve Mclaren. I've got to be honest, again, nice guy, but I think when he was given the job, I thought, well, he's a coach, he's not a manager. It's not what this team needs. And again, a win rate of six wins in 28 league games tells its own story. But he just lost the plot. He completely lost the plot. Third place for me is joint between 3 people. And these 3 were equally as bad as each other for me. Graham Souness, already been mentioned for exactly the same reasons as Samantha said. The arrogance of the guy, the on-pitch fight between Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowyer. This whole, you just get the impression he could eat himself. If he was chocolate, he would eat himself. And obviously he went on that horrendous run with the team, left us, towards the relegation zone, and it was just an awful period. Ruud Gullit, again, for the reasons that have already been mentioned, his arrogance, really the way that he treated Rob Lee, who was nothing but a great servant in Newcastle United, not even giving him a squad number. And then, of course, dropping Shearer and Duncan Ferguson for the derby, which, of course, was like signing his own resignation letter. But just a complete lack of understanding about Newcastle United and what the place was. And a name that hasn't been mentioned, but deserves mentioning, because the guy's an absolute just a Neanderthal. Everything that was wrong with like the old style managers, and that's Sam Allardyce. Didn't like him. Didn't like Sam at all. I couldn't get away with him, and ultimately bringing in his own squad of people, and just the way that he went about things. He just wasn't for me. And obviously the fact that he then proudly spoke about buying another property once he'd been sacked by Newcastle. I think he walked away with something like £4 million in fees for being sacked at the club, and went on to buy a Spanish resort, I think, or a Spanish apartment. I'm sure he's called a Casa St. James's, so absolutely awful, really. So we've had
look where he's ended up as well. Like, he's just had the worst fall from grace ever. And after what he did, but when he got the England manager's job, didn't even manage one game and went for more money. He's just the most arrogant, awful man, and does not care one bit about football. And that's just my opinion. Can't stand him.
We've got, and I mean, not many people have said Steve Bruce. Look, the guy, I know there has been a few people comment on the comments, but Steve Bruce is, he's come in, he's had one season, he's kept us up in tough times. I think Steve Bruce will probably be judged, Kendall, on this season, won't he? This is the big test for Steve Bruce.
Unfortunately for Steve, he's come in at the completely wrong time. I don't think he was obviously crazy and clearly wanted the job so badly to come in post Rafa, because I think anyone they brought in post Rafa, maybe he's apart from blooming like Pep Guardiola or someone, like anyone that would have just been hated. So I think to come in post that, he was just going to be disliked anyway. He's, to be fair to him, on stats, he's got the worst win rate in the Premier League for I think it's however many games managed. He's got the worst one. Obviously, as you say, this season is the teller. Last season was just a bit of an anomaly. We don't really know what happened. We only got halfway through and then had to stop and start again. So yeah, this season is going to be a massive, massive game changer. We're going to see the holes. We're going to see all of the cracks and all of the positives, if there is any, which I hope there is. But we're going to see see it for what it is this time.
Fixtures came out. What do you make of the first 3 games, and what do you think we'll get out of those games, Kendall?
Well, it's West Ham, isn't it?
Yep.
Game. Yeah. To be fair, I genuinely thought like we were going to have leads like in the first couple of games, and I think a lot of people did on Twitter and stuff, as anyone I was speaking to. West Ham's always a funny fixture for us. It's either like loads of goals in a draw, or like just a 1-0 lucky sort of game. So I don't know where we're really going to go from there. It completely depends on signings, I think. These next 2 weeks are so crucial for everyone. I think the worst one we've got's at Christmas, when like we've got like Man City, Liverpool, like all in like one go. So as long as we can get a few, runs in from before Christmas, because like the Christmas is the telly, you don't know where you're going to go from there. But our first 3 fixtures aren't too bad, I don't think so. I'm really not looking forward to it.
West Ham away is obviously our first fixture, Sav, and it wasn't Leeds as our, there's always somebody predicts the first fixture. It seems to get leaked out. It's always incorrect. West Ham away, Brighton at home, and then Burnley at home. Spurs away, then Burnley at home as the first game, Sav. Is it a tough start, or do you think we'll pick some points up with those fixtures?
I mean, on paper, it's not a tough start, but if we play like we played at the end of last season, then it will be a tough start. It just depends how they all come back, to be fair. And I think, going back to Steve Bruce, I think this season he's got to stop playing defensive. I mean, I know we've got Gale, he's probably about, but we haven't got the strike force there, but we do need to push forward and stop sitting back on the ball.
Yeah, Samantha, I mean, Steve Bruce, it's a big season for him, isn't it? And, what do you make of the opening fixtures?
I think there are points to be won. When Steve Bruce came in last season, he said he didn't have enough time to get the team to play the way he wanted them to play. And I've criticised it quite a few times. I don't think he knows what tactic he wants to play. I don't think he knows his best 11. This is the perfect opportunity for him to establish that. I saw something funny on Twitter saying fans almost have Stockholm syndrome at the minute because, you're almost ready to kind of settle. And I don't think our squad's the worst. It's missing a few things, we'll definitely need strikers, need a bit more creativity. But I'm looking forward to Paul Dummett coming back. I'm looking forward to being able to play a solid back 4, even if that is Lascelles and Fernandez or, Clark for one of them. Right back, I'm not convinced about it all. I don't particularly like any of our right backs, to be honest. I think we've got 3 of them and they're very, very average. He needs to set up with a back 4. He can't revert to a back 3 because he can't get them to play the way that Rafa did. They're not disciplined enough. Sav mentioned, we play defensively. We play really poor defensive football. When we just need to play 10-15 yards further up, and we just need to try and play with a bit of personality. I think energy in midfield will help, having a few more options. He just needs to pick the way we play, and we just need to play that way. He can't do what he did after lockdown and revert to a back 3 when he's nervous about the games that we're going to play, because the team lost all identity. If we start the season the way that we finished it, as Sav said, that's not going to be good enough. We're not, we need to hit the ground running. So if he gets to start with the squad and the team that he wants, and they play the way that he wants them to, I would see there being 6 points there. I can't see why we couldn't go to West Ham and Brighton and get something, although I think Brighton will be garbage game. Spurs, there's an opportunity. And Burnley, there's an opportunity. But I think this season ultimately depends on him picking and understanding his best formation and his best players and just sticking with it.
Katie, what's your views on Steve Bruce and on our opening fixtures?
Well, West Ham's great because one of my best mates is West Ham fan, so that'll be fun. Looking at the actual stats from the last 6 games, they're kind of hard from what we've done. it is all dependent though on what we bring on the day. It's like, was it Lascelles saying the other day that we need to have more of a winning mentality, but we're not going to have a winning mentality because we're not winning games. So if we go off to a start and we lose, we're going to go into the next match with the right. We need to make sure they don't win us, as opposed to we need to beat them, and we need to make sure that we're actually pushing forward and not spending the whole time playing defence. It's like American football, just stick a whole defence team on. That's what it's been like. But I think he does need to look at his tactics, and I think he does need to look at his formation, but he doesn't need to just do it at the start. There was countless games where you'd be screaming at half-time, change something, bring someone on, mix it up, move them around, and the game would restart, and it's the same thing. No one's moved, no one's been brought on, and then you spend the next 10, 15 minutes screaming, change something, bring someone on, and no one ever did. So I think we do need to have a bit more pace up front. I think obviously the issue is the striker, but we need to be playing to win. We don't need to be playing to just defend or to draw, and that's what we've been basically doing. We've basically just been defending the last couple of games, and more, to be fair. And it's absolutely shit to think it, because I think everyone's got in the head that next season is potentially a relegation battle. I'm more worried about the back end fixtures.
Yeah.
At the end of the actual fixtures, because they could potentially be tough, and especially with a few odd ones in there like Fulham. I think we've got Fulham last game, who could be scrambling to try and cling on. So I just don't know. It's I think it's going to be a tough season. Christmas is going to be fun. I don't know why I don't know, is it me just imagining this, but do we always seem to get a Manchester team on Boxing Day?
Yeah, we do.
And being kind to us for like travelling away fans, but I mean, it's not kind, is it, when you play?
It's not kind at all.
Rather travel.
Do a Manchester derby. That's the kindest thing they can do. Surely that's better for away fans.
And they've done again. They've done the same again. I mean, that's if fans are allowed into the games. But I think the games that, of course, a lot of people like to look for, the games are a little bit closer to home, so you can go away and have a good session, and it's not so long on the road. So I think Sheffield United and Leeds United are both midweek.
Are they?
Yeah.
Leeds on the 15th of December, or have I just made that up?
I can't remember. I just remember just off the top of my head, somebody on the show when the fixtures came out said that they were both midweek. But of course, from our perspective, these games could change. TV coverage might come in, so things can move. We know the one thing we know as football supporters is you can't plan anything, because TV dictates what happens and when these games will be played. But yeah, I mean, fixture list's always cruel, and you're right. I do think we always end up playing a Manchester team, around about that time. So
always Leicester in the year as well.
Yeah, Leicester at New Year. That's another one. Yeah, we always seem to get these kind of things. It must be a glitch in the system. Maybe they need to punch the machine that does the fixtures. It's 40 minutes in. We haven't mentioned the takeover, so I'm going to mention it. Kendall, I don't know. It's like it's a bit like watching Big Brother, isn't it? Week 42 and the takeover. It's like it's getting to that kind of feeling now.
I feel like I'm on Big Brother. I feel like I can't get out. Like the takeover, I'm in a fence. My brain's in a fence, and I just can't get out in the takeover. That's how I feel like.
So what's happened since? What's happened since we last spoke? I mean, we haven't had any new people riding into the distance. Oh no, we have. We've had Palotta. Palotta's come in. Palotta's been mentioned as a potential new front runner. But we've also had Mike Ashley come out. Ian Murta put the story out that Mike Ashley was going to come out and make a statement about these other interested parties, essentially to say that they were tire kickers. Now, Ian Murta, I do know, has got a good relationship with Steve Bruce, so maybe that's been a situation which has developed from there. But these journalists like to run stories, and Ian's not one for clickbait. I've got to be honest. He does his facts. So he obviously has a good reason for running that story. But as of yet, nothing from Mike Ashley.
No, I do. I've seen that as well. He was just going to basically say that they're time wasters, and that if the club wasn't sold and that we have another year under him, it's solely not his fault. I did see, which is fair enough, because obviously, as we're all aware, this is probably the most active he's been in wanting to sell the club. He said for about 8 years now that he wants to sell the club, probably more. And obviously this time it's been the closest that we've gotten to it. Obviously nothing's really happened in the last week, apart from basically that nothing's happened. So like no good news, not really any bad news. I think a lot of people are still like hopeful and still think that there's things going on in the background with regards to obviously PIF and Amanda Staveley and the Reuben brothers, etc. I think that's just like a hopeful thing. I have no idea what's going on, but it is just so tiring. And as we all are aware, we're now just under 3 weeks away from the start of the season. It's like we need to know. We need a definitive, or we need to just say, look, it's over. We need to move on and get on with it and just surrender to Mike Ashley for another year. But I think the lack of clarity again since the beginning of April just kills everybody. And now it's like a crucial point where we really need to know.
Yeah, I agree. David Crone, yes, hi, mate, who's a Sheffield United fan. I hope he's doing okay. Sav, not really any progress in the takeover. A lot of people asking me on Twitter, can Amanda and PCP not say something? Lots of people, have you spoken to Amanda? From our perspective, really, I think that the fact that they've not said anything has to be a positive. And I've maintained the same rhetoric all week, really, and that is, that we will hear from PCP again, for two reasons. One will be she'll be standing at St James's Park with me and Dad with a Newcastle strip saying that the deal's done, happy days, or she'll release a statement to say it fell through and this is the reason it fell through. It's as simple as that, isn't it, really? I don't think we'll expect to hear anything more from her if they're working away in the background to continue trying to take the football club over.
Yeah, well, this is like a couple of weeks ago, me and Dad put up about, was it last week, about that Rick Astley really cryptic tweet. And, they're liking tweets that sort of back up the fact that there's stuff going on in the background. And I've got to a point where I think they can't say anything about it, what's going on. I mean, I don't know, like you said, I think it'll be a statement to either say that it's done or it's gone through. I do think there is activity going on in the background, but I tell you what, the highlight of the last week was those BN group pictures that people were photoshopping. I was crying laughing. They were the one with Ronaldo and Alan Shearer. Your Alan Shearer, actually, Katie. It was.
I know, it was mine.
It was. Someone did have to do with Hendrick as well, like in photoshopped. Oh yeah, Barack Obama in the Hendrick picture.
Yeah,
I saw that today.
That was the highlight of my week. That girl, I spent a morning, I was crying laughing. It was so funny.
Yeah, I did see Mad Marks put Steve Bruce is happy with the clarity in his latest presser. Yeah, I did see that. He just said, the takeover's collapsed, and at least we know where we are with that. It was like, as if as if it's all over now, which it quite clearly isn't. So, Bruce just choosing to probably put the blinkers on and just continue, which is probably the best thing. So Samantha, it's, as I say, we're not really any further forward, are we? Another weekend and still no clarity on this takeover.
Well, Steve Bruce thinks there's clarity when no one else does. So unless he knows something we don't, I think my thoughts on it are that we just put it to one side. I think we're so close to the season starting. It's good not to have Twitter filled with it at the minute. I think everyone's kind of put out their statements. The fans have done what has been asked, aside from the parliamentary survey that's there at the minute that we really want people to kind of sign. There's nothing more that we can do, and kind of people are turning themselves in and out and bickering on Twitter when, we've done everything we can. We're not going to get any further forward by arguing with each other or trying to second guess. We need to get back to football, even if it's really crap football, and even if it's signings that we don't particularly want. It's still an operational football club. We need new players in. First pre-season games tomorrow. I encourage everybody to just focus on that. If there is an update, it will come through, on Twitter, Sky Sports News, wherever it is. If there's a statement to come out from Ashley, it'll come out. But for me, it's just noise until something official comes out. And I think we really just need to start focusing on supporting the team and kind of pushing through into the new season. I do firmly believe we'll be taken over. I don't know by who and I don't know when it'll happen, but it will happen, and we're going to have a party and we're going to have a celebration and we're going to call all the people that we hate all the names of the day. But until that happens, you know, we thought it would happen. Until now, it hasn't. That process is more difficult than anyone imagined, which means it's not going to be quick. I don't think it'll be done by the end of the transfer window, so there's no point in speculating anymore. So I think everyone just needs to get back to focusing on football and the season that's about to start. And, you know, if Ashley puts a statement out, I feel like it was leaked that he was going to maybe have an impact. I can't see what use another tire kicker statement's going to do, apart from really piss the fans off, because nobody likes to hear from him because it's never anything positive for us. And a tire kicker statement's not going to be positive. I actually think it would be more harm to hear from him in that manner than him just staying quiet.
Yeah, good point. Great point as always, Samantha. John B says, can you get Alan Shearer on over to Katie? there we go. That's
He's
it.
just a bit quiet today. He's pissed off. He's pissed off because Kendall mentioned him in the worst manager section.
Oh, Kendall.
We're not interested in Alan Shearer's opinion, Katie. We're only interested in yours. So, you know, give us your thoughts.
I've stayed out of it. You could have told me that, well, obviously that it hadn't have gone through because I would have seen that, that there'd been new people involved and I wouldn't have a clue. I completely ignored everything takeover this week because I was just fed up with it. I get why Steve Bruce is saying that there's been clarity, because he literally knows now that there's going to be no one quickly coming in. There's going to be no chance that there's going to be loads of money. There's no going to be any quick deals. He knows now that the only thing he has to concentrate on what he's got now and what he can get in. I don't know anymore. I think it will happen. I don't know when it'll happen. I got to the point where I was reading into everything, like every single detail. It was, well, why has it done that? Why are they being quiet? Are they being quiet for this? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it negative? Why are they doing that? Who's put that? And I was just like, you can't keep doing this, Katie. You're literally just burning your battery every day on Twitter. So I've stayed out of it, and it's been nice refreshing to just actually look at football stuff as opposed to look at takeover stuff. I have no idea what's going on. I'd like to think that it's quietly happening in the background, because pretty much most of us have all said that we wished that it had played out in the background and not in the media. And now that that could be happening, loads of us now pissed off because we don't know what's going on. But the only thing that I looked at is obviously the Photoshop pictures and the fact that someone did use my cardboard cutout, which I thought was hilarious. But no, I think it'll happen. I don't know when it'll happen. I don't know whether it will be exactly what we want. I just don't know anymore. But I'm confident that Ashley will go soon.
I've got a few concerns that we'll finish off with this. Pre-season friendlies. Now, I know it's difficult because Newcastle United obviously usually go abroad, usually go to Ireland and have a training session over there, usually have a foreign trip. Obviously, COVID is preventing that. But Newcastle United's a Premier League team. Obviously, you want to give yourself a test. I think, you know, our players would revel in that. So far, our pre-season friendlies, bearing in mind the season is 3 weeks away, well, less than 3 weeks away now. We start tomorrow with Crewe Alexandra. Then we play Barnsley. Then we'll play Middlesbrough. So, Kendall, is that really the best kind of preparation, do you think, for a Premier League season ahead?
No, not in terms of preparation. It's clearly not what we need. But at the end of the day, I think it gives obviously a chance for Steve Bruce to give players a run out who we haven't seen for a while, or maybe been on loan. I know there was talk yesterday of him giving Jacob Murphy 45 minutes tomorrow. I mean, we've got to offload some players at the end of the day, and this is now a chance to see if there is anyone to go. And I think Sybet probably needs to be off. Aaron's, unfortunately, because I know a lot of like fans wanted Aaron's to do really well, me included. Jacob Murphy probably go back to the Championship permanently. I think it's now's the time. But preparation wise, obviously, the caliber of teams that we're playing is not obviously ideal. It's not going to give us the best, prediction of what's going to be ahead. But what can we do? I think this year is just a complete write-off.
It is, yeah. I mean, I just thought, Sav, we might have been able to, maybe get a few decent games. You would have thought that the Premier League teams might have actually thought about playing each other, just to give themselves more of a test, Sav.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, but then like someone's just said along the bottom that everyone's going to be in the same position sort of this year. And I think, a friendly's a friendly and it pre-season friendly. Let's just hope that we can sort out a better formation than what we had at the end of last season. I think that's just the main thing really that needs focusing on, because if we come into this season like we ended last season, then we're in a lot of trouble.
Samantha, it's I suppose Tom Lynn's right, that we are going to struggle to get teams, and especially with a lot of leagues finishing at different times, European football just finishing, Scottish League starting, maybe that's the reason. But, I just thought the Premier League teams might have cooperated a little bit more with each other,
Yeah, I think there could have been an opportunity. I don't think they're inspiring fixtures. But then, we played a couple of friendlies coming out of COVID, and they weren't particularly good. What I thought could have been an option, and I don't know if they explored it, is if we're playing Borough, why couldn't we have played Sunderland? I mean, if you're going to have a friendly where you're going to try and get the players to have a bit of fire in their belly, get Sunderland, play a friendly against them. Everything else is a bit beige. It is fitness, and we're going to be changing it up. I would have hoped there would have been one more friendly in there. But, I don't know the reasons why they wouldn't have gone for Sunderland. But I think the game against Borough will probably be the pinnacle. But I can only surmise that it's the COVID situation that's kind of meant that they could only pick from certain areas.
Yeah, it's got to be Katie. Not very inspiring pre-season friendlies. Not really a big test, and I suppose at least it means there's less chance of getting injuries.
Yeah, but we are Newcastle. We will pick things up on John Street. The friendlies at the end of the day, they don't literally help much with the league, which you could tell last time because Joe Linton scored in most of them. So. I don't know. I think Kendall's bob on though. It gives the chance for who we actually need to keep and who we need to send out. I mean, I just saw that we've loaned out Kel Watts. I can't remember where he's gone, somewhere just before. But I'd rather just get into the nitty-gritty now and go into the Premiership matches. It's probably the Premier League that don't want them to play each other. To be fair though, honestly, if we'd have actually played Sunderland and got battered, I think that probably would have ruined our confidence for the whole actual Premier League. To be fair, I would have absolutely loved the fact get in, we'll play Sunderland, we're going to smash them, and then suddenly and they fuck us over. I'd be like, fuck's sake. And I think it would just top up what 2020's been for Newcastle United, to be fair. They're just test games, aren't they? Just to give them a runabout, and I hope he does actually uses them to practice, like he should practice. He's a fucking manager.
I think he needs practice.
His tactics, and actually use some tactics and change things up and see what he can do and who he can bring on. So
yeah, definitely. No, I agree. Kel Watts to Plymouth. I wish we'd kept him. He's played literally last game of the season. Should give more of the youngsters a chance. Yeah, Miles. I mean, I would agree with that. And we have got youngsters, Kendall. I mean, obviously we've been talking about Matty Longstaff at the start of the program. Is this a season where maybe we could give a few of the youngsters a run out? Do you think?
Sorry.
You know what? Towards the last few games of the season, yes. Like when we had nothing to lose, when we were safe, yes, do it then. Like that was the perfect opportunity to do that. Like, and then obviously as we knew, Kel Watts only got like a run out on the last game of the season or so. So it was just like a bit of a nightmare. I don't know why he would do that. Obviously friendlies possibly, but this season this is crucial for Steve Bruce as a manager and for the rest of his career, for his rapport with the fans. So I really, to be fair, I don't think now is the time, especially when we're probably looking at things as the way they are now. We're probably again going to be in the bottom half of the table. I'm all for giving youngsters a chance, but if we really do want to take it seriously this year, and obviously, well, I mean, 13th isn't the worst position in the world, but we want to do better than that. And I think the end of last season was probably the best chance to do that, and we didn't even do that. So yeah, had nothing to lose, and now we have everything to lose. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Sav, you've got a lot of youngsters, who are breaking through. It has to be said. You'd like to see a few of them, get the opportunity. But do you think Kendall's right? You probably would just, maybe leave it and get some points on the board first.
I think it depends how we start the season, to be fair. I think if we start, like, as I said, the same way as we finish, then you've got to change something up. You can't just sit there and keep sending the same people back on the pitch. And that's like I said about Kel Watts today. And someone said to me, is he going to, what if he messes up and then everyone gives him abuse? But then you look at Joelinton. He's had to lock down his Insta comments recently because of all the abuse he's getting. It's whatever player it is. And I do think if we go out and we're losing games and it's the same type of football, then you have got to change something.
Yeah, Samantha, it's always a bone of contention, I think, with a lot of supporters about giving youngsters a chance. But Bruce did it with Matty Longstaff, last year, and he scored against Manchester United, great goal, match-winning goal. If they're good enough, surely they should get an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. He did and he didn't with Matty. A manager needs to be strong in their decisions, and they need to show the courage to give these young players a chance. At Newcastle, it's difficult because we're always in an absolute shitstorm. Like, there's no calm time where a manager can start to introduce people into the team and into the squad. And I think it's great that we have so many youngsters training with the squad. But our football, it has not been good enough. The pressure has been so much that when times have got tough, he has taken the kids out. He wouldn't play Kel Watts at the end of the season when we were playing two fullbacks along with Fernandez. He wouldn't play Matty, probably because of the contract situation, but possibly not. We've got Sorensen, different players coming through. He'll put him on a bench for a cup game. He won't bring him on when we don't really have anyone scoring goals. So I think there's a balance. I actually think that the person that needs to step up and come through this season is Sean Longstaff. We're talking a lot about Matty, but Sean, apart from his first games under Rafa, has shown really very little since then. A few different, performances, flash in the pan, a bit better when he was higher up the pitch. But this needs to be his breakthrough season where he stays fit and he tries to cement his place in the team. And that will mean that Bruce is probably going to have to play three in centre midfield, or else he's going to be really going against Hayden and Shelby if he doesn't play further up and he's going against Almiron. So I don't mind players going out on loan as long as it's managed properly. Because we haven't been great at that. It has to be the right club. We need to keep an eye on them, and we need to show them that path into the first team. But I think the only player that I'm kind of looking at in that regard at the minute is Sean, because I think if he doesn't have a good season this year, people are talking about the fact he has 2 years on his deal, same as Matty. We could be in a difficult position with him.
Yeah, is it time to give the youth a chance, Katie, do you think, or would you, prefer to see Newcastle, get the points in the bag with the established senior players before we do that?
It's a bit hard with the way that we've been playing at the moment. I'd love them to come through, and I'd love them to play first team, and I'd love them to make an impact. But with the people that they have around them, are they really in a position, and with the way we've been playing, to be actually developed by us? It's a rock and a hard place. Kel Watts wouldn't get game time if he stayed. He's been loaned out. He can go and get some decent game time, and he can develop. Our issue is that we watch them go, and then we just ignore them, and then it's just money at the end of the day. Oh, we'll get some money for him. We'll just sell him. We need to be actually spending time, like Sam said, we need to be managing them and we need to be bringing them back, and we need to be mixing them in. And it's the exact same with Woodman. He's literally signed a deal, gone on loan again, but his goal is the one thing is to come back and be number one keeper. He wants to be number one keeper. So they go with that mentality. We need to support them as a club with that mentality that we want you to be that too, instead of them just being a price tag. Now, whether that's just because it's Ashley or not, I don't know. I don't think that Kel Watts would be able to develop as well if he stayed just with us, because I don't think he'd get the game time, and he would just become another person on the bench, probably even wouldn't make the bench, that we just have in the background that we forget about. And then all of a sudden he'll come along, he'll do something good, and we'll end up in a situation where we want to keep him, but other people are wanting him. So I think it's a hard line at the moment. I don't think we have the team in a position to be able to develop the younger players as well as we have been previously, and as well as other clubs, because we just don't give them the game time.
Yeah, all good points as always, girls. Local heroes. Talked about that. I retweeted that earlier. Peter Crouch put an absolutely hilarious video out today. If you're feeling a bit down, just get onto Peter Crouch's Twitter and just watch it. It's definitely the video so far of 2020.
I love the dog coming in.
Yeah.
I like his wife when he's like, "What are you doing?
I'm not even. It's if you haven't seen it, just I retweeted it about a couple of hours ago, and it's just honestly, it's well worth watching. It's one of those moments where you, unfortunately you have to laugh at somebody else's misfortune, but it is worth it. It's definitely the video of 2020 so far. As always, ladies, great to have you on and hear your input. And as you've seen, plenty of positive comments for you all. And keep on doing what you're doing, and we'll be back next Monday. Look forward to seeing you then.
Before we go, I have to give a shout out to Danny, who is always on time, because he's been asking for 3 weeks since he stuck up for us all when we were all getting trolled a few weeks ago, and he's been saying, I need a shout out, it's my shout out this week, and I've ignored him every single week for like 3 weeks now, so I have to give him a shout out this week so he can finally just leave me alone.
Well done, Danny.
But I bet he's not even watching this week.
He has stuck up for us loads of times on Twitter, so to be fair, he deserves it.
Well, if he's not watching, he'd be able to watch it on catch up. So that's great.
I'll send it to him.
Yeah, just honestly keep your heads up. I've seen some of the interactions you've had, girls, and honestly, it's I'll always give you the advice: you just ignore them, just block them, and move on. You're all doing great stuff. People love listening to you, which is great. You see the comments on YouTube, and the ones that we get on the show. Everybody thoroughly enjoys your input. So thanks again for coming on and taking your time out to give your views on Newcastle.
Oh shit!
Oh yes, and thanks to Alan. Big.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, Kendall, stop being horrible to him.
See you next week, girls. Bye.
Bye.